Time to press start, and we are off. Welcome back to the Endurance Hour podcast alongside Roger Thompson. I'm Dave Erickson. This is episode 116, and we are back once again. We are back from being back.
Right.
Because a couple of weeks ago, we made our return after 3 months off, and now we're back again.
Right. When we said 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
Had a posted podcast with us, and as you saw, and some of our listeners and viewers saw, last week we had a special, I kind of did a filler podcast.
Oh, yeah, the chocolate milk with the panel.
Yeah, the Training Peaks had their live
It was really
stream.
good.
That was really good. I thought it was good. And it sounded pretty good on iTunes and Stitcher.
Yeah.
I listened to it to make sure everything was good, and the audio came across pretty well.
Yeah, I listened to it on a ride. Actually, I thought it was going to be a big promotion about chocolate milk, and when everything about chocolate milk, and obviously there's a few little thrown in there. I thought very tastefully done, though, but it was very interesting to listen to. Apollo Ono, I think, was, for me, the most interesting one to listen to, and of course, Craig Alexander as well, but and Rennie, I shouldn't leave her. They were all interesting, but I think Apollo Ono is the one that everyone is most interested because he's coming from a different background, an elite athlete in a different arena, 42nd event. Now he's going into this, and one thing that stood out probably the most in that interview was when he said, he talked to Heinz Ward, and what was Heinz Ward's recommendation? He said, Heinz said, pray, and but I think the most aha in that, in terms of looking at, I guess, human behavior and human, just kind of like what Ironman means is, here you have Heinz Ward, in which it wasn't about Apollo Ono or anybody else, but you have Heinz Ward. He's, Super Bowl guy. He's is he in the Hall of Fame? I don't know.
He will be.
He will be. He's a little early for that. But I mean, all these amazing accomplishments in a sport that is considered, in the United States, like the one, in terms of popularity and participation, I guess, by kids. And here he goes and does an Ironman. He trains for an Ironman, does it, survives it. We were there.
Right.
We saw him come across in Hawaii, survives it. And what is the thing he goes and does immediately after?
What?
He goes and gets an M.Dot tattoo.
Oh, that's right. He got a tattoo.
And I just think of all the things that he has done that has, has given him money and success and provided, avenues to provide for, whether it's charities or for his family or anything. And this is something that, granted, he did get a lot of attention and a lot of different things, but ultimately this was something that he did that really required a lot of himself. And he went and got, that of all the tattoos that he could get, this was something he's like, no, this was a big deal. And I admire, tattoos or not, I just admire that this is the type of impact that this event and preparing for this event had on a guy that has prepared for something else for years and years and years that I don't want to say is harder. I don't know. I'm not a football player, but my guess is there's a lot of sacrifices and pain and.
Well, he has lifelong pain with multiple knee surgeries and overall body aches from 16 years, I think it was, maybe I'm off.
Unbelievable.
And the NFL, winning the Super Bowl, being the Super Bowl MVP, takes on this. He's also doing broadcasting for NBC, and he marks the moment the day afterwards, probably within 24 hours, by getting a tattoo on his back of his calf.
Yeah, is that why I thought that's where it was. That's where I envisioned it. But I mean, to me, I'm like, whoa. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I was just, obviously he was moved. Yeah. So anyway,
you've never been moved to get an Ironman tattoo?
No, I have. And it might be needles, it might be pain, but I can definitely see why people do it. Yeah. I definitely can see it. I'm
not a tattoo guy, not a pain guy. What is it?
I'm not a.
Is it that type?
I'm worried it's trendy. Not tattoos of anything are trendy. It reminds me of a friend of mine growing up. He was really, back in the 80s, was really into kneeboarding, right? Into, behind a boat, and he was really good. And he, at 18 or whatever, decided he was going to go and get a tattoo of the Tasmanian devil on a kneeboard, with water, doing a flip or whatever on his ankle. And, of course, for that year and even the years that came after, that was an awesome tattoo. He's like, yeah, and he was really good. But you think about it now, it's like, where is that now? It's kind of like if you were really into rollerblading back in the late 80s, early 90s, and you got rollerblade, and, it was huge then. But where is it now? That's my concern. And how involved are we in things all the time? But, some people say, hey, I planned on doing an Ironman. I want that, and then get a tattoo to remind me of that. And I don't plan on ever to do another one again. And it's like, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I think for me, if I get a tattoo, and I don't want to say if I were to, because I really don't ever plan to, it'd be, and I think I've said this before, but I'd have a tattoo of my kids, something about my kid's name or something like that, because that is permanent. Mm-hmm. That'll never change, and and my love and care for them won't drift, maybe through the teen years, maybe, but it won't change. Versus I'm really into baseball right now, and all of a sudden you hate baseball and you're doing something else, but you got a baseball glove and a bat tattooed on your bicep now, mm-hmm. and it's just like, oh, that was a time that I really liked it. Now I hate it. So that's just me. I'm just worried about it's just like, it's permanent. It's always. It's forever, and I think it's harmless. I mean, it's an accomplishment. It's not, Well,
it's a defining moment for a small percentage of the world population.
Absolutely.
So to mark that moment, this accomplishment, and for others, I know it's a defining tattoo. This is who I am now. This is my identity.
Yep.
Now I've entered the community, and something you can never take away.
I think there is one other tattoo that I would probably get. And I say that only because for me, it's unattainable. So I can say that. I can say that, this would be, if I made it to the Olympics, I would get the Olympic rings somewhere.
Yes.
But then again, if you make it to the Olympics, is it something that's still unattainable? Or is it like, I made it, and and I worked hard to get here and so forth. And
well, if you're an Olympic caliber athlete, that would define you for life. Everyone would know you as the guy who was in the Olympics. Andy Potts has it on his shoulder. The athletes.
But what is Andy Potts known for?
Well, now that was the transition into a professional triathlete. But until then, because athletes have probably that one window in life to make it, except for those the 0.001 percenters who can do 2 or 3 Olympics in their lifetime, but to do one. People go to the trials to get into the Olympics.
I mean, what tattoo, if you were Michael Phelps, would you get? Because he's gone to the Olympics.
For him,
he's won countless, not really countless, but literally countless medals.
Sure,
I don't know how many, over 8, because I know that was 1 year.
I think he's 21, 22, I think.
So you have a guy like him, are the Olympics going there 3 years, maybe now 4 years? Is it something that's like, wow, that's really special? Or I got all these medals. I've raked it in. I've set a new record. Is that really special? I set records. Is that really? I mean, it's just like, at what point do you?
He is a walking brand.
Right.
You wouldn't have to say, "Oh, look at me because I did this." No, we know who you are.
Right.
There are certain people that they are their own.
But regardless of who they are, they still making it to the Olympics. You still want, it's like, I made it here once, and then it's like. And again, and again. Is that special anymore that you would want a tattoo of it? Because right now I'm going, if I made it to the Olympics, and however many medals I got, if I got one, I'd have that hanging from the rings on my, probably not my bicep because it's not big enough, but yeah, I don't know. It's.
Well, for you would have to have done it after your first. At this point, for you as an athlete and your age, there's really no significance to you adding a tattoo now of an M. For you because you've done a few. But Michael Phelps doing it the first time he made the Olympics, then yes, but afterwards, it's lost its momentum.
And I think that maybe that's where I'm at with the Ironman or M. tattoos because. I'm not a big tattoo guy. It might be just I'm afraid of pain and pokes and things like that. But I know when Jessie did her first Ironman, she actually did say that. She says, and she didn't want, but she says it's the first time I ever contemplated, just not seriously, but almost more along the lines of had this awareness of why people do it because she said I can see finishing this and why people do it definitely. Mm-hmm. And I think I agree with that. I think I 100% agree.
You got to strike while the iron's hot, though.
Yeah,
while
man.
the Iron Man is hot.
The M dot is warm.
Yeah, otherwise he's like, I don't know when I'll get to it because I'm still on that high.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember in Canada in 06 or 07, and the next day, the morning, I mean, I'm just up. We went and got coffee. It's
that was
after
your first
the
one in
race.
Canada?
No. Just happened to be when we were up there, and we saw these two guys with both of their calves were wrapped in bandage.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can barely walk. They already got up, went to a tattoo place at whatever time in the morning, got it, and they're trucking around. I mean, they don't even have their finisher gear yet, and and I just thought, you would have to schedule that before, before the race even started. But anyway, again, I get it. I see why. I'm not
I saw a number of tattoos like that, or the M dots at Lake Stevens last weekend, and one was an odd one. One was centered on his calf, and then one was cockeyed on his calf off to one side.
Mhm.
And it was like, it almost looked like it was a misprint. Like,
Oh.
you almost
Whoops.
went over that. Yeah, it's like, that wasn't really a line. What do you do? Are you hoping to make a third one?
I wonder if he's making kind of a circle of them
all the way around.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen some crazy ones. Just like, wow.
Well, our friend Ben Greenfield
Yeah,
has
he's
one in his back of his
kind of
below
a
his neck.
block,
And then
three-dimensional
he's got
thing.
some fire coming out from
Yep.
it, so you can build on it. I've thought about that. I've done 4 now, but I
You
thought
have 4 tattoos?
4 Ironmans.
Oh,
So I've done 4.
like where are your tattoos?
After Coeur d'Alene in 2008 is when I got my first one. 'Cause
Right.
That was the big deal.
Yep.
I said, if I'm going to get any tattoos, it'll be that one. I
Yeah,
won't get- I won't
absolutely,
get
totally
one.
get it.
And I thought to myself, if maybe when I'm 50 or late 40s, probably 50, if I were to ever qualify or earn a spot to Kona as a legacy lottery, whatever, I would just add the letters Kona below the M dot,
Right.
because that would signify that. But I wouldn't get a new one.
I wonder if after you're done doing Ironmans, but then again, you wouldn't be motivated to probably do it. But just it's like, yeah, I think this is I'm done. Maybe your knees blew out, or I don't know, whatever. Is to put how many an M dot and like to the
Times
8th power or times
Oh, yeah.
8 or
Yeah.
whatever.
I think I've seen people do little check marks,
Yep.
slashes and then 5 and add to it.
I've seen one that said DNF.
What?
Yeah, and then the next year it was finisher type thing, and it kind of a unique. Yeah, it was kind of. It must have been traumatic, but I wonder how many in Kona have an M dot tattoo. I mean, if you were to like 1,800 people, what percentage is it? 20%? Is it higher than that? Is it? I'm just curious. They
That's
count
cool.
bikes, but you don't know where they all are. Most of them are
True.
in a similar spot, but
Yeah.
like Ben has his on his back. If he had a
Yeah.
shirt on, you wouldn't see it.
A lot of legs, a lot of on your calves.
A
or lower
lot,
legs.
yep.
I mean, that's good.
Shoulders, yeah,
Shoulders.
shoulder blades
Mm-hmm.
as well. But yeah,
Well, there goes our tattoo. That was like a fun
Yeah.
little rant, wasn't it? Little
yeah,
fun,
everyone's got to talk about the tattoos.
Hey, maybe send us a picture of your tattoo and post it on the Endurance Hour Facebook page. Let us know where it is, or if you can take it tastefully, send us a picture.
Even distastefully, we'll at least we'll see it.
Yeah, let us see it, or email us, endurancehour@gmail.com. On the tail of Lake Stevens, I just got back from doing that race and I saw some locals there, some of our friends that
Yep.
were at the race. It's a pretty decent turnout. I think it was just 1,450 athletes. So actually, it wasn't that big of a race.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit more, but it's a fantastic day. For those of you who were following me, I did post a picture on our Facebook page. And the quote of the day, as I put there,
I love
was,
it.
I thought it was great. Best podcast online. Running in the opposite direction. The guy says it to me. I didn't say anything. He didn't say Dave. He just, I don't know if he recognized the Timex kit and just knew who I was. Because throughout the day, my number
Right.
was flapping up and
Right.
down, so you couldn't see my name. But it was like, thanks, brother. That was great.
How that's got to be motivating. It's like, to hear. It's like, wow, that's cool.
And that it's not the first time it's happened.
Right.
And I think I also got recognized as you
Yeah.
in another race.
It happens.
Like, because my back's turned and they see Timex. Hey, Roger. Oh, it's not Roger. And who are you? Oh, I'm Dave. Oh, but we know each other. Okay, cool. I just used to race with him. Okay. And so you think I look like him? I'm 4 inches shorter, 20, 30 pounds heavier. What are you saying about Roger? He hasn't seen you that long?
Yeah. Well,
So thank you for whoever that was who yelled that out. It was very inspirational and motivating, and that was cool. What can I tell you? I've had a great year when it comes to racing, and all my gains have been on the bike. There's something about this Trek speed concept that
Yeah,
this year.
it's just the bike.
It's got to be to some degree,
Yeah.
because I'm riding it alongside. I had a pretty good, decent bike ride that day, and once you the first 10 miles or so, you kind of pass the waves that are ahead of you.
Right.
And now I'm getting into my age group or the faster cyclists, and I was actually coasting downhill faster than some of the guys I was riding with. I just got in the aero position. I know I'm a little heavier. That helps.
Right.
But just going down, I was going faster and looking back like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude to you, to fly by you like this on
Right.
downhill, but I have no control over it.
Right,
Life
right.
is just
I'm not going to
taking-
hit my brakes on this downhill.
I'm really not slowing down. I'm going to go fast. And I look back, I'm using the momentum to climb up some of the other hills.
Right.
It's like, well, this is sweet.
Yeah.
I'm making up a lot of time because the bike feels great.
Yeah, and it's a lot of position on the bike, and you're
Mm-hmm.
and again, sometimes people sit up on the base bars and kind of a bit of a spinnaker effect, and you gotta be safe. People just their comfort level in different places.
True. I've been really aware of my position on the bike. I've seen some videos on YouTube showing the differences between how an athlete will sit up on the bars versus being maybe aggressive or just in a good aero position, and that drag effect. They show the angle of
Right.
how many percentages of the or
How many
degrees
watts that
you'll lose, and how much the air goes over your head. And I think about that going, okay, I'm still going about 19, 20 miles an hour. I feel like I'm going up a slight false flat. I might as well stay down.
Right.
It's not going to help me. I'm probably going to slow myself down if I sat up just for the comfort point of view. No, I'm just going to stay down, and it made a big difference. Even going up some of the hills made a big difference.
Yeah.
It felt like it did.
I think once you're drag, and I always look at it, once you stop feeling the wind. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, I depending on the race and the climb and so forth, it's typically that 15 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour is the kind of. But if you're riding the flats and you've got a smoking head, you have a wind that's just blasting you in the face, but you're only going 12 miles an hour. That's different. Like in Kona, it's just like, well, I'm in the small chain ring going downhill and I'm pedaling really hard in the aero position. It's like, well, I better, sit up. It's like, well, no, your wind drag is really what you're looking at.
I want to pass along some cycling tips to people, because that's a great example of at what point is it probably the return benefit when you're going at a certain speed. Like you said, if it's 10 to 15 miles an hour, you might want to.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're rolling into. If you're rolling into some climb and you're like, say you're going into a 9% grade or something like that, and you're going in at 20 some odd miles an hour, and all of a sudden it's 20, 19, and you can see how your speed is dropping rapidly. It might be beneficial to sit up now, get comfortable, and start shifting down, because you're going 19, 17, 14. It's dropping rapidly. So your aerodynamic gains are not. And that's up a climb. And I think not being in narrow position, sitting up comfortably, you get a little more oxygen in. You adjust your, you got to stretch out your back a little bit, use different muscles, let some, kind of recover a bit. But yeah, I think if you're going 20 miles an hour, you have a 20 mile an hour wind in front of you, you want to stay down. But there's other times when you have a tailwind. That's going faster than you're going, say on an uphill or even on the flats. That would suggest that it's better to sit up to create a bit of more of a sail to get you pushing along. But once you again are above that 15, 20 mile an hour mark on that tailwind, it's always better to be in that aero position.
Here's something I learned and experimented with a little bit at the race in Lake Stevens is going downhill, and this is something you've told me over the years, is that once you get to a point maybe like 37 miles per hour, you can probably don't worry about trying to grind the gears anymore. Go with it, or maybe give your legs a rest, but maybe sometimes keep that spin going.
Yeah, I've actually been experimenting with that just a little bit to feel the drag on my legs. Where am I feeling wind on my legs at what position, on my current bike? It's like, okay, I feel wind a little bit there, but it's only on my shins. So because my knees are tucked behind my arms. So if I extend a full leg, I've got one hidden behind my arm, and the other one is fully exposed. And I'm just wondering, I don't know which is faster. I'd love to go do some tests on that, on just downhills. I don't need to go to a wind tunnel or anything like that. But But yeah, I think letting your legs spin around on a downhill once you exceed, say, 37-ish miles an hour, which is most people at 53.11, you're spinning at a pretty high rate. And unless you're trying to close a gap or trying to get around someone before a turn or before a hill, that's a good time just to, shake it out, relax, grab some, water if you're comfortable, doing that at that speed. But you're not, the gains that you're getting are you're putting out a bit of power in order to just eke at, half a mile an hour, or even 0.2 of a mile an hour. So, you can look at it yourself. If you're riding, whatever your gearing you have, and you're pedaling along and you're on a downhill and you're going 39 miles an hour, look at your cadence. It's probably like 105, 110.
You don't need to go that fast.
And what do you normally ride at? If you're normally riding at, 88 to 92, it's like, wow, you're now, significantly higher on a downhill. It's like, the returns aren't great enough.
I did notice when I was going downhill, and maybe I was in the mid-30 range, maybe 35, 36, I kept the power consistent on purpose, and I noticed that the people in front of me, some of the faster guys, were coasting. So I thought, I'm going to pedal through this. And by pedaling through that on the downhill, in that range, 35-ish, that I was able to press past them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking back like, you guys just lost some speed there because you relaxed for whatever reason. It's not like you're trying to compete against me, but I'm thinking, I made up some time.
Right.
And there was no extra real effort. I just kept my power. I try to stay consistent, but why not pedal through this? I'm going to save some time. I'm going to gain some time by going through it, and it made a difference.
And I think when you are at those speeds of, like, say, the 28 to 32 mile an hour range, you are still in that kind of spot where you could be going along a flat at, not normally, but with a tailwind or something like that, and you'd be pedaling along. But I think a lot of times people get to that speed of 28 to 32 and it feels, quote, fast. So they think, I'm going to coast now, which allows them a little bit of recovery, which they might need at that time. But realistically, if you were on the flats going 28 to 32 miles an hour, you'd still be pedaling because you'd be going, I'm moving along, but I need to still get my, maintain my speed. So yeah, it's tricky, and there's a time to rest and a time to make big efforts. I think, again, the general rule of thumb is when it's hard, you should be going hard. When it's easy, you should go a little easier. So when it's easy, like you're going really fast on a downhill, that's not the time to go hard. When you gotta, climb, you can raise, your effort a little bit because it's hard. If you're riding into a headwind, that's kind of like a hill. You work a little harder. In a tailwind, a strong tailwind, you ride a little easier, just because to hammer into a tailwind, the gains aren't going to be incredible. So anyway,
but the point of all this is to stay consistent on that power too.
Well, and again, rest when you can. Take advantage of rest when you can. It doesn't do any good to hammer on a downhill if right at the bottom you have a 90-degree turn, that you got to slow way down for. It's like, well, I'm gonna pedal, get up to speed. I think one of the big mistakes a lot of people make, especially in Ironman, is they climb up a hill and they put too much out on the hill, but that's common in any race. But they get to the top of the hill, and once they get to the top of the hill, they ease up. It's like, pretend the hill is just a little bit longer, maintain that effort, get yourself back up to the speed that you typically maintain on the flat, then settle in, then ease up. Because right now you're working really hard. Just make that hill effort just a little longer. That way you get up to speed and you can settle back into that, versus stopping at the top of the hill. Your body's already working hard. Just push through it a little further and get up to speed.
And when you do that, you'll notice the people who don't do that, there's a big gap that you on them.
It's huge.
It's like you look back going,
crazy.
Where'd you guys go?
Yeah.
I pedaled for another 10, 15 seconds is what all I did.
Right.
And now you're in the rearview mirror.
Right.
I don't know where you are.
Power meters are amazing for that, and I know not everybody has them. Heart rate's great, but remember, your heart rate reacts to your work, and the power meter shows you your work right then. So, and that's where you see most people put out way too much power, is on the bottom of hills and on hills. They spike the power up quite a bit, and then they see their heart rate respond, 5 minutes later, and then they're, I better ease up. And it's like, well, you've already done all that work, Yeah, you should have eased up a little bit ago. But yeah, power meters are something that's just interesting to keep an eye on.
Boy, the weather was great for it. Boy, that was I was thinking to myself, and it's a confidence booster for me. If the weather is cool, I'm gonna have a good day.
Yeah.
Because, I weigh a lot more than I should, and so
A lot more than I should.
and so I heat up, and it's hard for me to stay cool. And I knew that day there was a bit of a fog or a mist over
Right.
the water, because I did look up. What I love about Lake Stevens, anybody who has not done a Lake Stevens before, do the race. You'll have a lot more confidence on the swim because they have a sight line
Right.
tagged underneath all the buoys, and it was about 4 feet deep, and it was not a problem to see at all. And I had an okay swim for me. What my goal was, I hit it, and I didn't have to worry about looking up too much. I didn't veer, which I usually do, and didn't bump. No, I didn't really bump into anybody because everyone, I don't know if they were 20 yards wide of each side so they can see it.
Well, how big was your wave? I mean,
We had 120 or so.
see, that's
maybe.
that's going to split up like
Mhm.
within 100 meters. You're going to all of a sudden,
Well, the cool
and then
thing
you
is-
have the line, the sight line, which is, I believe that's for a rowing. The one that they use there is for rowing, at courses. So they drop the lines, and then they just drop the buoys on those lines, and
Oh.
they use it. There's a couple races they use that at, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
However, you follow that line, you eventually run into a buoy
I did.
because
I
it's
did.
hanging on it.
I did.
So
And the buoys were numbered, which I liked. And I kind of looked at the course ahead of time, and I saw there were 9 buoys before the turn, 9 buoys back. So I'm doing my math. Oh, this is a great thing. I tried this last weekend. I used my run trainer, the 2.0, and I used the
Right.
interval timer option on it. And I set it for 4 minutes to vibrate and also to beep.
Okay.
And I had it on a 9 repeat, so 36 minutes. My
Okay.
goal was to go 35 minutes. But I'm thinking, I want to hear where I am every 4 minutes to gauge where I am on the buoys.
which buoy I'm at? Interesting.
Yeah. So I didn't know if they were 100 apart.
That's a
200
lot of
apart.
math for me to be doing swimming.
I figured I don't want to keep track of a lot of numbers either.
Right.
I didn't want to go 5 minutes. It seems like it's too far
Right.
to wait. 2 minutes, like, I don't know. I don't like 2. I'll go 4, and it's easy to do the math. So I'm looking, okay, now I'm at this buoy. It vibrated. Oh, cool. I'm at buoy 3.
Right.
At this pace, if the buoys are evenly
Assuming
spaced,
they're evenly spaced.
then I'll know where I am when I
Right.
hit the turn. And it was really a relaxing
Interesting.
feeling for me because this watch vibrates and beeps.
Uh-huh.
You can do that option. So there was a couple times, and I have a feeling for time, being in the news business for so many years.
Right.
Like, this story runs 2 minutes long. I know how long 2 minutes feels like. So I'm feeling like, here's 4 minutes is coming up, and my hand hit the water, and the splash and entry of it felt like, was that a vibrate or a hitting the water? Oh, it's vibrate. Oh, that must have been the vibrate because a little bit.
Right. Oh,
triggered
yeah,
it,
absolutely.
But it also beeped. And so every once in a while, it depends on where my hand was in the swim, I could hear it beep or feel the vibration. Anyways,
Interesting.
if you have a interval timer option on your watch out there, Garmin, Timex, Polar, whatever it is, use that option if it beeps. To let
Or
you know-
vibrates.
or vibrates, to let you
Yeah.
know where you are. To me, it was a nice little checkpoints.
Yeah, because the GPS won't work underwater
No.
on most watches unless it's a radio frequency. All the Bluetooth, or Ant Plus stuff is just so weak.
I don't know where I was going with that, but just wanted to share that. That was cool. that
Cool
it was-
buoy line, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then using the
The
watch
weather.
in that way. And
The weather was
cool.
great.
A question that we had we got a number of questions and comments from our last return podcast, and this one's from Blake, and I'll say Blake first of all said, so glad to hear that you guys are back. In response to how often I would like to have the podcast, I would say as often as it's sustainable for you guys, and as often as you're able and willing. Most important is you guys don't get burned out. Blake is from Utah. Then he did a follow-up email, which I think is good for all of us here. Hey guys, I had 3 flats in 3 weeks,
Ooh.
one during a race, which I experienced a couple weeks ago. Considering that my total distance for all 3 of those rides is less than 100 miles, I can't imagine this being normal. Do I need new tires? What thickness of tubes should I be buying? Any tips would be appreciated. Again, thank you, Blake.
Wow, sometimes it's just unlucky, and I can ride all season, not get a single flat, majority of the season, and all of a sudden in 1 week I'll get 3 flats. And nothing, I don't want to say the tires were worn or anything like that. It's just like, wow, it's just like your time comes. Now, in that situation, like a lot of people will change their flat and they'll ride 10 miles further and get another flat, or a mile further and get another flat. Well, in that case, you might have something still in your tire.
Yes.
That has poked through. I flatted 2 days ago, and And I always take, especially on a training ride, I always take my tire totally off and really inspect the casing of the tire, on the inside. And I run my finger along it, which is kind of a bummer if there's glass, because then you get a little cut on your finger. But, I kind of feel along and see if I can't see it on the outside. Well, this time I looked around, I inspected the outside of the tire that comes in contact with the ground, and I didn't see anything at all. But I thought something gave me a flat. So I looked on the inside, and again, nothing. And I was just kind of feeling, all of a sudden I felt a little kind of like little nick. And I looked, and sure enough, it was a piece of glass that had lodged itself between the outside of the tire and the inside of the tire. And it slowly worked its way into the tube, and I had a super slow leak, like to the point where I could see, I knew it was going flat, but I rode another mile to get to a point where in the shade, by the way, that I wanted to change the tire. And then I changed it. But, it was something that had I put in another tube right away going, oh, don't see anything, I would have been in that same situation again, because that little piece of glass would have wore its way back into that tube. In terms of tubes, I think your best defense to flats is the casing of your tire, of having a nice tire that's basically a training grade for your training and racing. Most of your higher end tires have a level of puncture resistance that should get you through a race. Now, you come across glass or tacks or kind of construction staples. There's really no tire that can prevent that, or a sidewall puncture. There's just nothing you can do. It's just out there. Bad luck. What I tend to do in races is, I know we need to ride to the right-hand side, but normally I won't ride on the white line unless it's really clean. Otherwise, I'll ride in the right-hand tire lane, because that is typically really clean, because that's where all the traffic goes and clears that out. Most of your debris is on the shoulder, which would be, between the white line and, of course, the side of the road, because that's where it all settles. But, on some roads, they sweep them and they're beautiful, they're clean, they're awesome, or it recently rained and all the stuff's gone. But especially in races, position yourself in a place that the road is clean. Even if you're riding the tangents and you're cutting corners, just you run the risk of riding deep on the shoulder, that there's also going to be a lot of debris. But people often worry about sand or like gravel, or just little rocks. It's like, oh, a dirt road. Oh, I'm going to get a flat. It's like, yeah, you rarely get flats because of rocks. You get flats because of glass, thorns, things that are poking through, that are kind of razor sharp at the tip, that puncture. Gravel or rocks or sand, typically, look at cyclocross, look at Paris-Roubaix, look at, you can ride a gravel road for quite a while, unless it's really jagged, on the surface shale that could slice your sidewalls. But in general, that's not where you get your flats.
What about those sections, let's say you're crossing an overpass or a bridge, that gap in the road, and you hit it pretty hard? Could that eventually cause a...
Well, that's different. That is if your tires are underinflated. That's called just basically a pinch flat, which...
Oh, underinflated would cause that.
Underinflated will cause a flat probably quicker than overinflated. And again, I run my tires at 100 pounds when I'm training. 120 when I'm racing. That's just generally what I run. If you underinflate, you go out for a ride, you haven't aired your tires for a long time, they naturally lose a little bit of pressure. If most people know that. If you're riding and you weigh, say, 180 pounds and you're riding a tire that's, say, at 60 psi, and you come across a transition strip on a bridge, or even you hit a pothole a little hard, the tire compresses into the rim, and you might not even feel it, but it compresses, and then your tube is in there, and that pinches the tire to the tube to the rim, and puts two little nicks, and they call them a little snake bite, which means you have you hit something so hard that it compressed it, and your rim actually caused the flat because it cut the tube. So that's an underinflated, or you just hit something so hard that happened. And sometimes you have a little damage to your rim as well. So if you're getting those types of flats, your tires are typically underinflated for what you probably should be riding them at. But that's super. I hate those. Are like the worst flats. And I've gotten one in a race where I hit a huge rock. Actually, it was in Ronde Van Pelouse, which has a lot of dirt section. And it was just a rock, and I hit it so hard. I'm like, oh man! I knew it right then. It's like I'm gonna get a flat, not because I had something that cut my tire. It pressed so far in. I'm like, I'm gonna get a snake bite or a yeah. So anyway, those are. But if you're getting a flat just randomly, yeah, I would double check that you don't have something inside that tire. In terms of quality tires, I would always get nicer tires, better puncture resistancy. I don't know, for racing, a good quality tire, and then for training, I wouldn't look at something high end. I know Continental Gator skins are like the heaviest, slowest, worst tires to get for racing. But for training, they literally last a long time. But getting an inexpensive tire to train on, like a really inexpensive, these are really cheap. Typically, you're going to end up paying a lot in CO2 cartridges if you use them, and new tubes. And new tubes are, $4 and $5 a shot.
Or if you get the long stems like I have, $10.
Yeah, well, they can cost more. Yeah, and so all of a sudden now that that great deal on that tire, and you're getting 3 flats, that's 3 tubes if you're replacing the tubes. I'm not a big patch guy. I just
well, tell us a little trick of the trade when it comes to fixing a flat when you have maybe you're out of no more tubes. What's that little? You use a wrapper, like a
that's for a sidewall.
Okay.
You could be on your tread as well. Yeah, sometimes you get a big enough gash that if you were to air it up, the tube is going to come out that hole. So maybe your sidewall,
of the tire itself.
Of the tire itself, the
see.
tube will come up once you put 100 pounds or whatever your CO2 pushes it up to, or whatever you choose to pump up to. All of a sudden, it just shoots out like a little bubble out the side because the tire casing can't hold that tube.
Yes.
So essentially, what you do is just shim it up with anything. I've used, believe it or not, grass. I've used big leaves. And laid them, so it just needs to keep the tube from pushing out. Yeah, it depends on where you're at. I've used, I've had money on me, $1 bill, that works great, but then, I want that $1 back. You can use an old patch. You just need something inside that between the tube and the tire casing to keep that tube from pushing out. Power bar wrapper I've used, they're great.
Gel
wrap, anything. It doesn't have to be like bomb proof. It just has to not allow something easily to shoot out the side, because there's nothing more frustrating than having a CO2 cartridge, air it up to 100 and whatever PSI really quickly, and then all of a sudden see this little bubble shoot out the side and explode, and it's loud, and now you're out your tube again, a CO2 cartridge, and maybe you have another tube as well, but otherwise you're limping home.
That's what almost happened to me 2 weeks ago, 2 races ago at the Coeur d'Alene Olympic, when I had my flat on the race. That I replaced the tire. I did the whole check because I did that thing where I put my thumb through the whole tire on both sides, and I also checked the rim to see if there's any slivers.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because I don't know how my flat happened.
Yep.
So I put my tube in, and I had the long stem, and I started to inflate it with my CO2, and I started recognizing that it was bulging out between the tire and the rim. So I pulled back.
No, it's not set in.
It wasn't set. So I stopped real quickly. Even though I had another tube ready, I only had one more CO2.
Right.
It's like a Chrissy situation.
Right.
Where it's like, oh my gosh, I only have one actually have another CO2
we've all
ready
been
for
there.
me. So I stopped it, pressed it back in, and made sure that the tube was inside the tire correctly and not going to be pinching. Took me a few extra minutes. But it's like, okay, I can't take a chance.
Right.
If I use this next CO2, I'm done.
Right.
Unless I'm waiting for somebody to, Rebecca Keith
to come by,
and give me an extra CO2. So there's a lot of things you can do to check to make sure that you're safe.
Well, I think what you're saying though, I mean, you could have taken out the object that caused the flat. You got the tube in. You're ready to roll. Your tire is clean. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is you've put that tube in, and there's some tricks around that, blowing a little bit. I think Lance Armstrong shows on the thing, he blows into the tube to get it some shape, give it some structure, and that allows it to set up in your tire a little better to keep it away from the rim. But what you're talking about is you had a fairly low pressured tube in there, and it got between the bead
Yes.
of the. And I'll tell you what, that happens all the time. I go around my entire wheel on both sides when I do that because.
Squeeze it, kind of squeeze it.
Yep,
make
and
sure the
work it
tube's
in.
inside.
Yep, and you can tell. Just pinch it, look all the way around, and it's just an extra 15 seconds to do that. Otherwise, if it's in between the two, it's just going to shoot out and blow up, and you're going to be back in the same position.
A few more comments. I
Okay.
just want to acknowledge.
That's how to change a flat.
I want to acknowledge some of the people who have said thank you to us and who have been loyal listeners for 115, now 116 episodes here. Glad to have you guys back. I was just trying to get some laughs in about the April giveaway Facebook comment. Remember last time?
Right.
I felt like a D-bag when you guys mentioned it and didn't want you to think that's why I listen. John, thank you, and he appreciates the work we do for the show. So thank you, John. I wasn't trying to make it sound like you're being a D-bag.
No, I didn't
just
take it that way at all.
Okay.
I think he's just busting our chops, having fun, saying, "Hey, now that you're back, who was the April winner?"
Tom from Henderson, Nevada. Dave and Roger, it was great to have a new podcast to listen to while biking home from work yesterday. Hope all is well. Love listening to your podcast. Hope you decide to keep it rolling. Out of Nevada.
I wonder which one he listened to.
Well, he must have been 14.
Yeah.
Because he was glad to have us back. These are all follow-ups from our return.
Oh, okay. All right.
This one, and this is something you don't have to go into great detail the answer because we're still figuring this one out, but from Glenn in Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, Dave and Roger. I live in Nashville. I have a sprint Olympic race every summer called the Music City Triathlon. Right before the swim start this year, a guy in the PA system was trying to fire everybody up and said that the Music City Triathlon is the second oldest triathlon in the world. He went on to say that Dave Scott and Mark Allen used to compete in this race. It seemed like a bold declaration to me, says Glenn. Is there any way to verify this? I wonder how many races claim they are the second oldest, quote, after Kona. Really enjoyed the Q&A with Rennie, Crowley, and Apollo. Good luck to Roger in Kona.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And I tried to do a little bit of quick research on that, just kind of glanced around, because unfortunately triathlon back in the day, many years ago, there weren't any standardized distances or really even almost sports. There's a lot of paddle, bike, run stuff. There's a lot, and literally paddle like in a kayak. I know our race here, a race that I did earlier this year was Troika, and it was the 34th year of Troika. Now, the oldest, I think what you're saying is the oldest still running, is what he's saying. That's a long time. And I don't know how many are running. It seems like there's got to be some local small rinky-dink ones out there somewhere that are unsanctioned that have just been going on in a community, but maybe not. I mean, you're looking, was it 36 years? Is that what the Nashville one is, I want to say?
Around that range.
Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, that'd be tough to compete with. It could be the longest still running, the oldest. Like I said, I wonder if there's one in San Diego area that they started. But those ones early on were kind of some bizarre races and distance. Bob Babbitt might know. I mean, but I'd say. I mean, it's old enough that no one's going to argue. But I would believe that Dave Scott and Mark Allen probably went and raced it just like all those guys went. There weren't a lot of races around.
Well, when they did Kona, they still called it a triathlon, but that's more the definition of an Ironman. There could have been a triathlon before that day when they created the Ironman.
There was.
Yeah,
there was. Absolutely.
So there's got to be something older than Kona.
Yep.
And this could possibly be it. So if you know the answer out there, let us know. Post it on our Facebook
Maybe you
page.
have one in your neighborhood or in your community that is older than that. That'd be interesting to see. I mean, once you're in the 30s, I mean, I've never... Wow, that's old. I didn't realize Troika was as old as it was. But it's been going on a long time.
Larry writes, I can't thank you guys enough for starting up again. Thank you. Best from China.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
Tim
smokes.
writes, great to have you guys back on the air. I guess we're on the air. And congratulations to Roger for qualifying for Kona. This is from Joshua. Joshua writes, it was me at the Ironman Coeur d'Alene Expo. I'm the closet fan. Haha.
Closet fan.
Congratulations to both of you and welcome back. I think I said this last time.
Right.
That I was walking through the expo, and a guy says, what happened to the podcast? And I said, we're on hiatus. He goes, you're killing me. That's what it was. So, Joshua, thanks for writing in. And, yes, we are back. This is cool. Endurance Cafe has a Facebook account, and they typed in, I will be listening in Kansas.
Ooh.
So we've the whole
right.
cafe's listening. And there's also another person here from Kyle who says, great to have you guys back. Thomas, long workouts of triathletes worldwide will go by faster again, thanks to you guys. Scott wrote, can't keep a good thing down. And those are just a few of the questions or comments and feedback that we've had since coming back for episode 114. I feel like coming back. It's like we came out of retirement. It was just a brief break.
Yeah, it was. It was. Well, I think when you use the word indefinitely, it kind of has that.
But it was open-ended.
Done. I know, and I think. We're sorry, it's over. Well, okay. Well, it's better to say that to have the worst case scenario set up. But yeah.
And for those of you who are listening, and I think I mentioned this last time, we are also recording this by video, so you can see this whole thing on video on YouTube, youtube.com/SBR, swim, bike, run, SBR vids. So if you want to see it, we've also put little previews links on the Endurance Hour, so you can find it there. If you want to see what this looks like when we're recording this, here we are in the flesh.
I didn't realize you had 2 cameras set up.
Yeah, we're doing 2 cameras today.
Camera 1, camera 2.
That's right. Do it again.
Camera
Which
1, camera 2. Is that 2? Maybe we could
That
put
should
it.
be 1. I think that should be 2.
Okay. See.
Either way.
Okay.
And we're here at Dave's studio.
Dave's studio.
As I speak in third person. Oh, quickly, we have a nice little exchange relationship with not only Rudy Project,
Right.
but their, what would you call XX2I?
I think that the XX2I brand is I think a more competitively priced.
But they're under the Rudy Project
Oh, they are.
umbrella.
Oh, it's part of Rudy Project.
Okay.
It's just the Rudy Project line is a very, it's kind of like maybe if you look at Shimano, you look at Durace and Ultegra.
Okay.
It's kind of in my mind what it is. The product is still amazing.
Yeah.
It's under a different. It's just.
And there's
different
no
price point.
XX2I helmets, so Rudy Project has
No.
more encompassing.
And I'll tell you what, it's a steel. They come up with some pretty cool colors, the white and the black, and I think they have
A pink one.
a pink as well.
We
Yeah,
gave
we
it
saw
away last
that.
week.
They're a very athletic sports design. They come with 3 lenses, 3 different lens options.
Yep.
And they come with a nice hard-sided kind of soft case, and then they have a soft, kind of cleaning case on the inside. I recall they had readers as well.
Well, they've
Are
got
they
so
not
many
doing that?
varieties,
They-
and
yeah.
the reason I'm bringing this up is that we have a 50% discount code to XX2I,
Which is already
a very reasonably priced
Right.
product, and they're good quality. I mean, for cycling, for running, whatever you want. So 50% off. Go to XX2I. Tell your friends if you want to, and just these 3 letters: EMD. EMD. That's the you do that at checkout. 50% off and it's good through the rest of this year that I know of. So if you want some of these sunglasses, they will extend that offer to you. Check it out. Take advantage of it.
What do they retail for?
I think they're maybe $59.
So $60, and you get 50% off that. So you're
Yeah.
getting a great set of glasses, athletic
3
glasses with
lenses,
3 lenses
like 3 in
and
1.
case
Yeah.
for $30. That's okay.
And
Wow.
I should put a little link into
Yeah, let's do it.
endurancehour.com below this episode so you can see that there. But EMD, and you'll get 50% off.
Cool.
We also have, for those of you watching on YouTube this far into it, we have a Timex Ironman Easy Trainer GPS watch. This is their marathon watch. And I think, based on the new lineup they're debuting here in about a month or
Right.
so, this watch, you can't really get it anymore.
No.
They're kind of like, we're done with this one. This is a very inexpensive watch, $99. Pace, distance, and time. No heart rate. It's real simple. Plug it into your computer to charge it. It's a really cool, easy watch.
GPS.
Call it Easy Trainer. GPS.
Yeah.
For $99. We want to give it away.
Turn it on and go.
That's right. Plug it in, turn it on, charge it, go. We want to give it away, but we don't know what we should do on how should we give it away. We don't have any races per se coming up besides Rogers Kona in 8 weeks or so.
Oh, you got some races coming up.
I got a couple more. So we've got to figure out a way to give this away to one of our listeners. We're not going to be a big giveaway podcast like we were earlier, at least not initially, because we don't want that
If
to
we
be the
ha-
draw.
When we already know it's not the draw.
It's not. People don't listen to us because of the pro interviews per se,
Right.
or the giveaways, because we are giving away Blue 70 and Timex stuff every day, every month of the year. But they just, for whatever reason, they like you. They want to hear me for whatever reason. So, anyways, Timex Ironman Easy Trainer GPS watch. Let's give it away, but we need a reason why. We already have like 1,600 people on our Facebook
Or maybe
page.
even write in why you think you need it. It's almost like that inspired thing, you know. It's just
inspired.
like,
Why should you get this
right?
watch?
And you know what? And then maybe we turn it over and let the viewers vote.
Ooh, you just noodled it.
You know what I mean? It's just like, if you need this, I
Yeah.
want to see people that, I'd love to have this in the hands of someone that needs it. It's like, I really need that. I use it. Not like, oh, I'm going to put my name in it, and then you get it, and it's like, great,
Right.
and it stays in a box for 2 years, and I know how that works.
Yeah.
You put your name in a drawing for something, and you win a free week at a fitness center, and you never use it. But this is a great product, and somebody out there, would make their day. So if you're one of those people, maybe we do that. Just tell us why you need it. Why I don't want to say don't sound desperate, but why why this would be a good fit for you.
So we'll be like one of those music TV shows where America's Got Talent.
Right.
So America is going to judge, or what's the other one? American Idol?
Yeah.
Or something Idol? Yeah.
Yeah.
How old did I sound right now?
American Idol.
Is that what it is? It's
American Idol.
Yeah, okay. And then there's also America's Got Talent.
Yeah, America's Got
That's
Talent.
good.
So You Think You Can Dance.
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them.
Survivor.
So you put it in, and then we'll have every Endurance Hour nation decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll take your name. Maybe who knows?
All
If
right.
you just let us know if you want it. How's that?
Okay.
We'd love to get that in the hands of someone that's going to use it. So
Let's finish off here. We've got about 10 minutes to go before
Okay.
our Endurance Hour long podcast.
Right.
Is
Someone asked me that. Is it really an hour? No.
it's been
It's endurance
longer. Yeah.
hours. And I think that is. I think that was listening to some other podcasts. There's this like thing that it's supposed to be an hour long, just podcasts in general. But from what most podcasts are experiencing, they are finding that people like the hour and a half. Like it's like
us.
movies. Remember movies when they were an hour and a half? All movies were an hour and a half. Now they went to the 2 hour. Then the
You got
knows?
Titanic, which is 3
Yeah.
hours.
Sequels. So I think it just people are not strapped down listening to these things. They aren't sitting at a spot. They're commuting. They're going somewhere. It's like turning on the radio.
Well, it's radio on demand.
Yeah.
And I did some research for my other podcast that I
Right.
do, which is about cars and car reviews. And the stats that I found is that people are in their car on average during their regular commute 26, 27 minutes. So if you have a person who's going to be going to work and they want to listen to a podcast, that's about the perfect time to make it for length. But for our category, our audience, we are on
They're
our
likely
bikes.
not in a car. They are.
They're going to listen
Yeah.
to us on runs
Yeah.
and on bike rides, which are going to be more than an hour and a half,
Right.
or even longer. So they're okay with it. And that's what the feedback has been from our audience.
Yeah, and I think even if you have 2 hours of material that's interesting, it's 2 hours long. If you have 30 minutes, but you drag it out to 2 hours, that's probably not good either.
Waste of people's time.
We get bored. Speaking of a podcast, I was on a podcast called The Wax, which
What's that
is
stand for?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I've listened to. They don't have a lot of episodes out yet, but there's two guys just interviewing a variety of different people, and one was I'm not even going to give any of them away, but I know I've listened to them all,
Okay.
and all of them have an interesting story, and it's not about athletics. Some of it is. That when they interviewed me, it was a bit about that, but it's one that I'd recommend giving a listen to. It's about people, but if you want to know a little bit about my backstory in life and how I've gotten to where I'm at a little bit, and kind of my ideas on stuff and family, and because we talk about that a lot. This one is exclusively about that. It talks about Ironman. It talks about some relationship challenges. It talks about a little bit about kids and education. But it's The Wax, and maybe we'll put a link to it. But it's really cool. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely a lot more about challenges and struggles and perseverance and different outlooks on life. And it's really cool. At the end of it, they ask you two questions of what brings you wonder, what makes you wonder, and if you could only have one piece of furniture in your living room, what would it be? So
Oh, where can they hear the wax?
they can hear it on iTunes.
Uh-huh.
And again, we'll throw a link to that. That'll
Okay.
take you right to it. Or you can search iTunes and type in The Wax, and then I think the episode that I'm on is called Roger Thompson.
Okay.
So, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. They're great guys, and knowing both, they're very, and they don't share a ton, but they're very, very bright guys.
Was this a phone interview or
No, it was in studio. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
okay.
there.
Is our studio better than mine?
You
It's not,
know,
is it?
you
can't
know,
be.
one is a he does a lot of video and movie stuff. So yeah, I was headphoned up, and but the
Wow.
mic was the same, very similar to this, except for his was a lot
The
grander.
switcher.
But yeah, and but it was fun. It was cool. But
Do they make money on their podcast?
I don't know.
Because we don't.
I know but it was. Yeah, it's.
How
I
long-
think it's
how long was
different
your
when you
interview?
talk about things like this, and even when you say, "Hey, what was your race like?" You know, and you talk a little bit about the race. It's a little different. But when it starts getting into those more personal things, and you know, you're like, "Oh gosh, where's this going to go? Who's going to hear this?" But even in, you know, we've gotten some good feedback about it. Like, wow, that was
Were you outside your comfort zone?
no, because there was no, because it's just like, this is real. This is
Okay.
what it is, and this is the truth, and this is, you know, there's a lot of dealings of, you know, some hard times, and
Well, if someone asks you a question, I've always known you to be upfront and honest with it. You don't really sugarcoat too many things.
Right.
You might be careful with how you say it, but if someone asks you a question about almost anything and they approach you, I don't see you as a person who's like volunteering the information, but if they were to ask you a question, you're pretty forthcoming.
yeah, I think they wanted a lot more about Ironman
Uh-huh.
initially, and like, you
Then
know,
they
what
realize
does it
it's
take?
more than just Ironman,
Yeah,
right?
and they realize there's more, you know, around this whole thing. And we talked about the 15 hours. That was a big piece, not a big piece, but a part of it, how we spend that time with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, yeah, it was cool. It was fun. So it's called The Wax. We'll post the link, but I was pretty excited about it. So if you want to know more about my life, how life is not perfect, take a listen. I think that's just shy of 2 hours, actually.
The whole show?
Yeah.
You were on for 2 hours?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long talk. Hey, before we wrap this up, now we have, well, it doesn't matter. It's a podcast. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge.
Wow, that has taken off, hasn't it?
Wow, that is flying all over social media.
Brilliant marketing.
And I just saw from last weekend, I believe, from Ironman Mont Tremblant, Mike Riley at the finish line took on the challenge.
Oh,
and
nice.
called out some names.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he called out some athletes on there. You find it on
Did
Ironman.
you see Bill Gates?
No.
Bill Gates did it, and he called out Ryan Seacrest and then a couple other guys. I mean, some big reach people. So
You saw the CEO of GoPro
Uh-huh.
video cameras, and he called out some pretty big names and ended off with, he said, "What the hell, Brad Pitt." It was a really cool video
Right.
of GoPro because they had like 3 or 4 GoPro cameras recording this, one from inside the bucket, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
So they followed him through this.
What a
office.
perfect, yeah.
Oh, it's a great promotion for him, but it's also for a good cause.
Right.
So they had him walking in one even shot, one non-edited shot from an office outdoors, and then they switched to a camera that was in the bucket while he's talking. Then they had like a camera on a crane, and then once they then they started editing, switching different shots. And when they were done with the bucket being dumped on him, the camera must have been on one of those helicopter things because it flew away.
Oh, very cool.
Well done, GoPro.
Well,
done.
look, I mean, come on. What would you expect?
Yeah. So with this whole ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, we've had some connection with this and some experience meeting someone who has lost a
Right.
loved one, namely their mother, to ALS, and that's our good friend Matt Russell.
Right,
Time
professional
team.
triathlete. Yep.
Won Ironman Canada in 2012, and he just finished 5th, I believe, at Ironman Mont Tremblant.
Did he really? And he was at Whistler, and I think he was 5th there or
He
6th.
might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
He's consistently top 10, if not top 5, and he races a lot of.
And I think he's
Ironmans.
racing Tahoe as well.
So what you'll see, what someone like Matt will do, and even Leanda Cave and other big-name athletes, is that after they cross the finish line, they lay down and do a roll. Chrissy was famous for this, Chrissy Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Blazeman Roll, named after John Blaze, who died from ALS was the first guy, and maybe the only one, I'm not sure, probably the first guy who finished Ironman World Championship with ALS. He had the diagnosis and was told that maybe don't have another year, so he trained and did that. I think it was 96.
It was not 96. It was 06.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
there's 6 in there.
Yeah.
So he raced the race in honor of ALS, and then wasn't there the next year because it took his life.
I think he raced it the one year. The next year he was there in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And then and he wasn't there the following year because I think it was 06 and then 07 he was in a wheelchair because I raced in 06 and 07.
All right.
And then I think I think that, and then in 09 when we were back.
And so maybe what he said and what is spurred on this the John Blaze, the Blazeman roll, is that I will make it across that finish line, and then if I have to crawl or if I have to roll across it, and maybe that's how it started. So Leanna Cave has done it, Chrissy Wellington, Matt Russell, because Matt Russell's mother fell to ALS.
Right.
And so now what we're seeing online is people doing this ice bucket challenge where they call out someone's name and say, I challenge Roger Thompson to take on this ice bucket challenge for ALS. Otherwise, if you don't do it within 24 hours, you need to donate $100 to ALS.
Or you do the ice bucket challenge and it's $10.
And then you call somebody else out and keep paying it forward.
And you have 24 hours, which I'm a little... And then again, I'm not good for. I mean, it's not that I'm not good for the 24 hours or that I'm gonna do it. You call me out. I'm good for that. But it's just like, I got things going on today. I've got
that recorded.
And get it recorded and get the ice alone. I mean, my freezes. So anyway, I've been called out I think 5 times. So 5 different people. Matt Russell being one.
Yeah.
Bruce Gennari, who I was gonna call him out.
Yeah.
He got to me first, and then.
So we're going to do it, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and we're going to call out some people. Russell Williams. Is it Russell Williams? Seattle Seahawks? Something? Russell Wilson called out some people. He did it on the Seattle Space Needle.
Oh, cool.
And the last person he called out was Mickey Mouse. Thought that was solid.
This is incredible on how this has spread, and people are taking this on from all walks of life.
Right.
And so we're going to do it. Roger and I are going to do this probably after this podcast, and then we'll post it and share it and make some call-outs. And maybe you can do the same thing. Maybe you can do that and post it on our Facebook page and make some donations in honor of ALS research.
Let's call out some podcasts.
Oh, I've got one in mind.
Oh, do you?
I actually got 2 in mind, but one big one.
I got 2 in mind.
Okay.
Maybe they're the same ones.
Okay.
All right.
So with that, wrapping this up, Roger? We don't have time to go into the other topics we were thinking about. I do have coming up next week on the podcast, since Roger and I are doing every 2 weeks, there's a TED Talk about running that I'm preparing for you. It'll probably be a shorter podcast, but that'll be coming up next week on the 28th of August. So that's when
TED Talks are amazing. There are some phenomenal TED Talks.
Yeah. So that'll come up next week, and then Roger and I will get back together and air our next episode on the 4th, and that will be episode 118. And in that one, and this is probably, we'll make sure we'll focus on this one. Lance Armstrong was on the Dan Patrick radio show not too long ago, within the month. It's a 3-part interview, and talking about the whole, the tour. Is he watching the tour? The whole what's happened since his admission in his one-on-one interview with Oprah, which I will say on the record was not a great interview on Oprah's part. The way Dan Patrick interviewed Lance this way was the way it should have been interviewed initially, in my opinion. Because Dan is fair, professional, to the point, doesn't dance around things, and respectful in the way he talks.
And didn't Dan originally, he was pretty fired up at the whole thing, feeling like he was kind of taken advantage of by Lance? Or no, that was, what's the other guy, the other sportscaster?
Which
radio guy that basically went on a rant about.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, that was a while. Everyone went on a rant.
Okay. So I think Roger and I will kind of share with you our thoughts and play you some excerpts from that interview. You can find it right now and do your pre-podcast research. Dan Patrick shows on YouTube, and that's where I saw it. And there's 3 parts to this. It's a phone interview. And so Dan Patrick is playing the audio from that. And it's pretty interesting, and I think you'll get some good nuggets and hear Lance as a real guy, because it's a guy talking to a guy.
Yeah.
And I think I like that part of it. Roger, let's see. We're almost done. What do you have going for the next couple of weeks?
Training, coaching cross country, works fires up in I don't know, less than a couple weeks now. My daughter keeps telling me 12 days, and I'm like, you look forward to it. And that's kind of the big piece. Just this morning, got up and Jesse and I went for a ride. Pulling Owen, went to Starbucks and had some coffee. And I mean, it's just like once August hits, I say this, it reminds me of Sundays. You know, it's like you still have the whole day, but tomorrow's Monday. You know, and that's the way August feels for me, is like, you know, I still got this month, but, you know, the real world comes back in September.
The life of a school teacher.
Yeah, as a school teacher. And we're going camping. We're heading up for 4 days or so. We've been it's just, our house, honestly, looks like we're constantly coming and going. Looks like we just got back from a vacation all the time. Not because there's sand. Well, there probably is. But, I mean, it's just always just a disaster. I mean, I don't want to say a disaster, but kind of a disaster. Owen's really into Legos right now, so I'm stepping on things and left and right. His bike, like I think we talked about that, got driven over.
Yes.
And so he has a new bike now, which he really enjoys. I'm selling my road bike. You want to buy a road bike? DI2.
I don't have a road bike.
Orbea. It's nice. What else? No, that's it.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. You had something crazy. You guys got a new car.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that... I never heard how... I mean, Melissa was excited, and then you guys drove... What'd she think? Did you drive it home, or did she?
Well, it arrived here.
Right, no. But you went over to Lake Stevens. You drove over to Lake Stevens.
I drove to Lake Stevens and then picked her up at the airport.
Right.
And then I think I initially drove from... No, maybe she drove from the airport. No, she really likes it. We got her a Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland 2011. Had very, like 25,000 miles on it. Really nice. It's got everything she wanted. She wanted certain things, and this one had it and more. So she's very happy, and she feels accomplished. It's been she's been dealing with it. Not dealing with it. She's had a so-so car for a while.
Right.
And this one has... I think she just feels better about who she is, and like this represents the effort that she has put out in her business.
Right.
And this is a good reflection of that.
Well, it's a beautiful car.
Yeah. I put my bike in the back of it because I took it to Lake Stevens for the race. It was plenty of room. I
had to tell Jesse that we're not getting a new car. So
you have to fix the Sequoia.
Sequoia is fixed.
Yeah.
$3,000 later, but again, nothing seriously. I mean, it's like, ouch, because it is a lot of money. But honestly, it was all stuff that that just, it's like, oh, the car, the gas is empty. Oh, let's sell the car. It's stuff like that. It's just like, it needed this. It needed to have the brakes redone. It needed to have a new battery. It needed to have, there's just the timing belt needed. It's all that stuff that's like, it's just...
It all happened at once?
Yeah, well, I think she maybe put it off all at once. So...
but there was talks of possibly upgrading and get a new car?
No, never in the works. Because I just think even at $3,000, we own our cars, and so to incur that just... Nah. It's too good of a rig, to do that. So it'd have to be really falling apart.
And you guys don't have a huge commute, so you're in a good situation.
Yeah, the car runs brilliant, but both of our vehicles use quite a bit of fuel. But we don't drive much.
You got a 5-mile radius for everything you do.
If that,
yeah. All right, so this is going to wrap up episode 116. Of the Endurance Hour podcast, your favorite podcast online, by the way, or best podcast online. All these closet listeners, thank you so much for following us and take advantage of some of the great discounts that we can offer. The 50% off the sunglasses. You'll see that in the links below. Don't have to go over that again. And Roger and I are going to be doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge right after this podcast. You'll see it on our Facebook page.
Let's do it.
And call some people out. So, Roger, just give me a couple final words, and then we'll close it out.
All right. It's good to be back. It's nice to be here again. And let's go find some ice cubes.
All right. For Roger Thompson, I'm Dave Erickson. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week of racing or training. We'll see you back here next time.